I'm going to hit record. Well, welcome everyone to today's Empowered Women's Call. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of July. If you are watching this back, I'm excited to have one of your favorite guests again, Dr. Nima Raymani. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, actually, because it's had such a profound impact on my life. And that is really getting into the neuroscience of confidence. And I think what's so interesting about this topic, and I can put my hand up when I say this, is having a lack of confidence or feeling a lack of confidence prevents us from moving forward into our potential in life. And often we're sitting there waiting for the confidence before we take action in our potential. And what I've learned on my journey is this just creates this vicious cycle of inactivity because you don't have the confidence to move forward. But in fact, the only way to create confidence is to take action and to make choices every day that help you really just establish those connections in your brain. And, you know, for me, I had such a well-trodden pathway and frameworks around being shy and being just a mom and all of these stories that did not serve my success or my happiness whatsoever. And when I learned different tools, techniques, and actions, I was able to recreate new pathways where I truly do feel my value as a woman. I feel confident to step outside my comfort zone, to embrace my fears. It's something that I actually look forward to doing in my life as often as possible. So I've got someone here who can kind of delve into more of the science behind that, not just, you know, for me, really, it's just my experience. But I don't know if you want to kick off by, I don't know if you have your own kind of journey on that, Nina, that you wanted to share to kick off.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I mean, thank you for hosting this. I mean, the feedback that I've been getting from the peeps who've been kind of tuning in has been great. And then a few of you have actually reached out to me personally. And then a few of you have really said, no, I'm really ready to take this on because it's so important. This is a very important topic because if we don't get this right, it impacts who you choose as a partner, who you attract as a partner. If you don't get this right and you don't really make this a priority of what we're talking about, it impacts the way you show up as a parent. It will actually spill over to the self-worth of your children because the incompletes and ingratitudes and self-esteem issues that you have, you'll unconsciously, and it's not because you're a bad mom or a bad father or whatever, we are unconsciously passing them along to our children because, I mean, that's what your parents did with you. And our parents didn't have the tools and the know-how to be able to invest in their mindset, into cleaning up those old programs that had us feel that we're not enough. So the fact that you're here and you're paying attention shows and proves that you want to change a step in the dance, because this work isn't just for you. It's not just for your future generations, your children, but it's also to help complete, you know, the traumas from your parents that they didn't have the awareness to complete because they're doing the very best that they can. So I'm here just to let you know, I left my laptop at the office, so I'm using my device. So I usually have my notes sitting next to me and I can look at them, but I have them on my device itself. So if you see me check out for a split second and read, I'm still here because I took some notes about this because we're talking a little bit of neuroscience. So just forgive me if you see me kind of going back and forth a little, you'll be able to hear this. But what I'm about to share with you is living proof that it is not your genes, it's not your inheritance that will make this difference. It is 100% awareness and action, as you just said. I'm so glad, Kira, that you started with action, because this whole confidence thing isn't just going to come to you like you're sitting on a beach and then you get hit by lightning. You'll have more chance of being hit by lightning on a beach.
And I was waiting for so long for that to happen, pretty much.
Exactly, pretty much. keep
Yeah, I
waiting.
just want to tie this together because not last week, but the week before, we had a big discussion on cultivating the personality traits that you most, love about yourself and aspire to. And, for example, for me, I want to cultivate more grace and more flow and flexibility and those kind of traits in myself. Confidence is one of those things. It's a personality trait and it's like a muscle. You've got to use it for it to grow.
Totally. And by the end of today's call, everybody is going to have specific actionable steps that if they follow, you will see a marked difference in the next 30, 60, 90 days for this confidence. And I'll also kind of offer a little something. Oh, geez. Let me just make sure before I begin, I want to send you this link, Kira. I want to make sure that you have this before we begin. It's really important for you to have this because I want you to be able to post this. So I'm just going to send it to you here on my thing. If you'll excuse me here. So there you are. So you have it there, and I'll let you know when to post that because that's a training that I'm doing. And this is for those. It's a training that I'm doing that's for free coming up this Saturday for those of you who are in Australia. Saturday afternoon around, I believe it's around noon, Brisbane or Sydney time. I'm not sure exactly, but you'll find out. So what I want you guys to really understand, number one, is that it is exactly like a muscle, that it's not inherent to you. But if you had parents who were attuned, if you had parents that were in their bodies, that had dealt with their traumas, that had completed their past history of traumas, all of their relationship challenges, they had an understanding of how their triggers were and their egos were triggered and how to self-resource and self-regulate so that they can show up for you and give you the affirmation and make sure that your attachment needs were met, then you have a distinct advantage in that confidence game. And I can see it in people. And I kind of, when I know their history and I know what kind of parents that they have, I say, oh, wow, that person's got a healthy dose of self-confidence. Like my cousins, they're two dentists. They've got a great relationship. They're very regulated nervous systems. They both had parents who were very regulated and they were present. They weren't stuck in their traumas. And so they've passed it on. And I see my kids' children who are 10 and 8, they are like captain of their soccer team or football, as you guys call it. They are in every single play and they sing in public. They don't have this shyness issue. And another cousin who didn't have the same upbringing, whose parents weren't in the same situation, their kids extremely terrified, scared because they don't feel safe in their bodies, because my cousins don't feel safe in their bodies. Mm-hmm. So this is why I'm sharing this, is if you don't get this part right, you are basically unconsciously, because it's not because you're a bad person, we are passing down these traumas unwittingly, unknowingly, unconsciously, generation to generation. And it's all done like unconsciously. It's not done on purpose. Yeah. Does that make sense? So this is why understanding the neuroscience of what it's going to take to fully resource. And by confidence, I don't mean walking around thinking you're hotter than everybody. It's or being liked by everybody. That's not what confidence means. Confidence means whether they like you or they don't, whether they agree with you or they don't, whether they approve of you or don't, you're okay with you. And that's not easy for somebody who didn't get their attachment needs met, who then had to adapt by behaving in ways of being pleasing other people so that they can feel seen and heard, by achieving, in my case, by achieving and being successful and getting external validation so that then I can feel good about myself, which was my road, my journey with it, because my parents didn't have the ability to see and hear themselves because it was passed down from generation to generation. It was a very kind of egotistical parenting, is that you're going to achieve so that I can feel good about myself. Your being it won't be enough to be who you are. You must get to this level so that then we can give you the love and approval. It's that kind of Persian you know, I don't know that those of you who have kind of like an ethnic upbringing, I'm sure it's a lot like that in Greek, if the Asian cultures, Indian cultures, Chinese especially, you must achieve this for then a parent to feel good about themselves that they did a good job, and then they can then pass out the love to you. So unconsciously, my journey with this whole lack of self-confidence came with this feeling of, if I don't get this much grades, if I don't become a doctor, if I don't have this, you know, these things exactly right, then I won't achieve my parents' love for me. Therefore, I won't be able to love myself. And I'd love to know if anyone can relate to that, or if I'm just alone. You're either in that field, or you're in the field of, I'm going to please them, do everything that I can to please them and be a good boy or a good little girl, so that they can then, because they're such a shit show, they're not around, they are absent because they're so, you know, in their heads and they're going through their own traumas and crisis, that I have to, in essence, betray myself so that I can then show up for them and then be seen for those little moments, these brief moments, be seen and then get approval and then feel that self-confidence. Tell me if there's any type of, I wanted to start off by saying why you might not have it inherently. Okay, so it all starts with those attachment needs.
Do you think we're born with it, Nima? Do you think we're born with it and then life circumstances kind of, you know, damage us?
Mm-hmm. Well, good question. It depends on how you're born. So let's say in utero, Kira, in utero, you're in the womb, but then it was like an oopsie. You know, your mother knew your father for like a minute. They, you know, had a moment of bliss, and then all of a sudden they got pregnant. And so for about 3 months, they're sitting there in a sense of, should we keep the baby? That kind of energy gets implanted and transmitted to the baby, and that invitation to exist shows up before it wasn't there. So you have this inherent, passed down through epigenetics, lack of self-belief.
Yeah.
Okay when you say it like that, it sounds so cool. I'm not sure what the feedback was there.
We've got a lot of people pleasers on here when you ask the question.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Right. So, so somebody who's adopted, that I've worked with so many clients where we regress them back. You know, what's not working? Well, I'm not showing up in my business, or I have these toxic relationships. What do you feel like? Well, I feel like I'm not enough. And then I have a process called the overview method. I do these trainings. And what we do, these trainings in person and in our group coaching sessions, where I take you back and I get you to feel that I'm not enough feeling. And then I go, where did you feel it first? And then they start crying. And where do you feel it? Well, when I was in utero, they have a memory pop up because of feeling. I became aware that I wasn't wanted by my parents. I was put up for adoption. So the question of the adoption came up. So when you ask me, do you think you're born with it, this level of confidence, and then you know, things happen in our lives which destroy our confidence? It's both, because many times you're even born not having it.
Yeah.
Because if you have a belief, and I'm not saying adoption is wrong, I'm not saying that, I'm saying your attachment needs, the traumas of your ancestry, which you didn't even start with you, has an impact on your self-belief. And before you were born, the traumas in your ancestry, ancestral trauma, inherited family trauma, your parents and their mindset when they were conceiving, your parents' mindset and the level of stress that they went through when you were pregnant. All of a sudden you get pregnant, and then dad all of a sudden says, you know what, I don't want this baby, I'm out of here. And then mom goes into a state of depression. Boom, that's going to get transmuted to the child. Now, please understand, as I'm sharing this, I have a tendency, I do talks all over the world. I do them constantly. Please understand, I know, I get that when I share what I share, it's going to trigger you. So many of you are going to listen to what I'm saying, and you're going to feel like I'm calling you out. This ain't personal to you, okay? But I would love for you to see, as I'm sharing with you, because I'm speaking the truth, and the truth is triggering as fuck for some people, right? So That's the truth.
The triggers are exciting though, because it's like, okay, that's what I need to work on.
Right.
That
So
right there.
if you're feeling
That's
that
where your
what
freedom
I'm
is.
saying is triggering you,
Yeah.
then pay attention and write it the F down, because
Yeah.
that's an opportunity. I'm not doing it deliberately to do it, but if you're stuck in a victim mentality, I'm going to get an email from you saying, you triggered me, you were very offensive. And it's like, okay, that just means that you haven't yet worked on your triggers, because when you become trigger proof, you can get offended and take responsibility for it rather than shooting the messenger. I'm just the messenger.
It's a choice, right? You could call me a name right now and I could either laugh at it and just project it back on you, or I could be really hurt by it.
Exactly. That's your choice. And it's wise for us. It's like we're going into inquiry here. So to answer your question, do you think we're born with it? It depends who, hun. You are a product of inherited ancestral family trauma, separation trauma, adoption, divorce. Each one of these things, then maybe you got bullied in school. Maybe you had sibling rivalry, or your parents got divorced, or you saw your parents arguing a lot, or there was a lot of abuse, or you got, hit as a child because your mom was so not present and just so triggered and didn't know this work and didn't take the time and invest in her own self-development. You have had many, many instances and evidences to then stimulate this dark passenger shadow within yourself that feels that she's not enough, that she's not good enough, that she's not worthy of love, that he's not worthy of love. So now what happens is you now end up, and you don't really focus on it until you end up with a divorce, within you end up when an affair in the relationship, or a health crisis, which then it's kind of like a wake-up call, which forces you to look at it. What I'm trying to say is, let's not wait for those wake-up calls. If they've happened, that's fine. We could still work with that. But let's not wait for those wake-up calls to examine where our beliefs are, where they constrain us. So a good question to ask yourself is, where do you notice a lack of power, a lack of freedom, and a lack of self-expression most? Is it when you're talking to people about your business? Is it when you're trying to show up in your relationship and speak your truth? Where do you lack confidence the most? In what area? Is it in your parenting, where you're so needy that you don't know how to even set a boundary and be disciplinary to your kids because you can't handle being rejected by them? Do you have a lack of confidence in that arena? Let me know. I want you to take a moment, because these talks are always interactive. It's not just me talking. I want you to really take a moment and let us know in the comments where you see this lack of confidence in most showing up in your life. That's the first question. In what area? Okay. In your physical appearance, where do you beat yourself up the most? Okay.
We've got
That's the first question. Yeah, that's cool. I'm interested in hearing, like, just share with me what comes up so that I say that again. Guilt and parenting
and conflict.
Yep.
Physical appearance. That would be a big one actually for this call. And definitely there's a lot of people within the business community that are on this call, and I would say most of my coaching is around just lack of belief and confidence, because everything's so outside the comfort zone because it's not the norm.
Totally. It's like you're trying on a new dress and it's just a little bit too tight. And so you're like, is this me? Is this me? Do I just abandon this, or do I work at slimming down? That's what the choice is. You got to understand. When you're doing this new business. Oh yeah, of course. Mom guilt and parenting and all that stuff. So first thing I want you to do is to ask yourself this question and decide right now. It's like you're putting on a dress, and that dress is maybe a half size too small. And your event is 2 weeks away. So you have a choice. Do you say, you know what, I'm going to take this as a challenge and now finally step into those habits of the becoming that I want it to be, not for the sake of looking good, but for the sake of the road to the becoming of what I need to be to fit into that dress? Am I willing to take that on? And I want you to ask yourself that in the realm of this confidence thing, because it's going to work the same way. because you're going to start to see how to hack your nervous system, how to hack the nervous system so that you can develop and allow confidence to emerge. So ask yourself, are you committed? Take that choice and make this moment a choice right now, because you either take this call as an entertaining, hour to sit around, which is great. I'm glad to share it with you. But I have it in my mission statement that people transform simply by attending my lectures and especially my trainings, that people transform. That's what I have in my heart. That's what I set in my intention. So every time I speak and I teach, and especially in my trainings, I have it that you leave a grander version of you with a deeper commitment to returning back to a greater outcome for your life. So take a moment to decide, are you in for that? Okay, because I'm going to share with you what you can actually do. And it's not as difficult as you think, but it's going to have you facing your dragons. Your dragons are the fears that you have. The dragons are the something that we as a human being cannot go through life without facing. This dragon, this, oh my gosh, my greatest fear, which essentially is the voices inside your own head.
And there's
regardless
some comments here that I just want to highlight, because I think that it will relate to everyone listening. I used to feel so constricted, like I couldn't breathe, like just so much control, and because I couldn't just be myself. And that's what people are writing. They just feel like they're holding themselves back from being themselves, because just the confidence just to be yourself, I think we can even just start there on that base level. But when you find that confidence through doing the work you're going to take us through, there's immense freedom on the other side, and it's just the most incredible feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be confronting to do the work, but honestly, what the payoff on the other side of just being able to be yourself is incredible.
Totally. Your biggest obstacle is what you just said, Kira. It's people not wanting to do the work or invest in looking at themselves and just pretending I'll just keep going and not just keep burying my head in the sand thinking that everything's going to change. It's not going to change on its own. I'll tell you this right now. Nobody is here to rescue you. It is entirely up to you to take this on, and you got to decide how many lives do I have? How long do I have to live? And what's most important? And the most important thing is what we all want. What you just said, everybody wants to feel comfortable in their own skin. And you can tell when someone doesn't. Their nervous system there's a tone when you don't have confidence. You walk in the room and two people, one with confidence, one without, you're not an idiot. You'll be able to tell who has that. And that impacts your income. That impacts who you attract. That impacts what you feel you're worthy of deserving and receiving. So you get in exact, and it doesn't have anything to do with how much, it doesn't have anything to do with how pretty you are either. I'll give you an example. There's somebody very close to me, I'm not going to name names, who is married, who isn't that attractive at all. I mean, to the point where it's like, what the heck? Who the heck does she think she is? Right? However, she's attracted an incredible husband, a beautiful life, and people talk about her, and she's like impervious to it because she's got this unwavering confidence and has built a beautiful life because she feels she's worthy of deserving it. She's worthy and deserving of it. Excuse me. So it's not how pretty you are or ugly. You can even, many of you watching are looking and go, yeah, well, duh. It's easy for Nima, as gorgeous as he is, to be confident. What are you laughing at, Kira? Hey, shut up. What are you laughing at? I was going to say you, but the very last minute, I'm like, no, Nima. No, it's easy. You guys are watching. Shut up. Quit laughing so much. Easy for everybody to watch Kira and say, oh, God, I would be confident if I looked as good as Kira, if I had her life and all of that stuff. But it's not about how good looking you are. I really want you to understand that. I want you to get that. It's not that. How many of you know super duper attractive people and they walk into a room and it's like they're holding their shoulders as earrings? It's like that, what you just described, that they can't even breathe because they just don't feel comfortable in their own skin. One of the best looking guys that I know is so insecure. He's got, and he's kind of famous and well known and he's a leader and all that, but I've been working with him privately. It's all an act. Please understand. you can tell when somebody's truly embodied. It comes through their voice, the tonation of their voice, their facial expressions, the pace of their breath, and it all starts with breath. So I'm going to give you a few hacks. And why this is important is because if you were to start implementing these right away, within a very short period of time, you're going to start noticing a difference. And I want you to write this acronym down. And this is called DOSE for confidence. DOSE, DOSE. It's an acronym for the neurochemicals that are produced that are responsible for confidence. DOSE. D for dopamine, O for oxytocin, S for serotonin, and E for endorphins. DOSE. Okay? It is your dose of neuroscience that is all based on the pharmacy that's already, the chemicals that are already in your brain, is you must have a dose of this every single day. Are you ready? And I'm going to share with you that. The first one is dopamine, okay? Dopamine, there are several things that will bring up dopamine into your life, okay? The first thing is crossing off something in your to-do list, okay? Whenever I cross something off a to-do list, which when you call, when you, in the day, you set your intention, you say, I'm going to get these 3 things done today, and you cross them off your list in that today, a magical thing happens. You get a shot of dopamine, which is one of the neurochemicals responsible for confidence. So the question that I have for you is, what can you, and you can do this, I just got off a group call with my tribe. The question that you can ask yourself right now is, what 3 things can I accomplish this week that would have me feeling pretty damn great about myself as far as incremental progress? Well, I'm going to go to the gym 4 times this week. That's one thing. Okay, what else? I'm going to complete 5 training videos that I have. I'm creating a new program for people called the Intimacy Accelerator. And it's very accessible because a lot of you have reached out and said, I really want to work with you. And then, your programs are expensive and all that. And I said, okay, I'm going to create a 6-week accelerated group coaching program to make it accessible for everybody. And that's what I'm doing. So tomorrow I'm going to put together 5 training videos and I have them there. And guess what's going to happen? When I'm done, I'm going to cross them off my list and it's going to build my confidence because that's dopamine. So crossing off the to-do list is the first thing. Number 2, meditation, exercise, sleep. Okay? I mean, this isn't rocket science, but when you exercise, you're boosting your dopamine levels. Sleep, you're boosting your dopamine levels. If I'm not getting enough sleep, my dopamine levels go down. With more sleep, they go up. Easy fixes, but yet we don't put them in our priority list. I don't have to go into those. You get the chemicals and dopamine. And the next one that I wanted to share is sunlight, which those of you in Australia don't have much of a problem, but it becomes a big issue for us Canadians, especially people in the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, in the months of October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. Oh my God.
I would say, though, I would challenge you on that, not because it's not available here, but because of lifestyle. And also, I think mothers in particular with young children can just get in the mode of not feeling good about themselves, and therefore they kind of hibernate in the house rather than getting out and getting active and getting sunshine.
And that's the biggest obstacle I want you to understand. Your biggest obstacle to being able to create this confidence is the story that I don't feel like it. I don't want to go outside and get sun because I'm not up for it. That's the obstacle. You must be able to witness that as the resistance, and you must overtake the resistance. You never finish a workout and go, God, boy, do I regret that.
Yeah.
You finish the workout and go, I hate it every second. However, boy, am I glad this is done. Like, I feel great because you just gave yourself a hit of dopamine. Yeah. Right? So your biggest obstacle here is, but I don't want to get sun because I don't feel like it. This is going to be your biggest obstacle. And then that's why people don't have confidence. because they allow that voice, which is a liar, your inner critic, to overcome that. And you must overcome that resistance to do
And
it.
it's
And the
just
last
that beginning bit of resistance. Like once you're through it, you go, holy shit, I feel better than ever.
Yeah.
Like, why would I not do that every day? You get addicted. It becomes easy. It becomes like a healthy addiction. Like me, I have to get out
self-fulfilling
every day.
prophecy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Because you're
Totally.
drawn to the chemicals that your body responds with that make you feel good.
What I want you to do is to be okay that you don't feel like it. Okay? You're not going to feel like it. I want you to write this down. You're never going to feel like it. I don't ever feel like going to the gym.
I do. I love going to the gym.
Okay. Must be nice. But what happens is it's becoming easier. It becomes like momentum. That's what you're saying. It's momentum. I don't feel like it, but when I go,
at the beginning, but you grow into it. Like you
exactly.
Yeah.
And the last one that I want you to say, the big surprise when I learned this, to hack your nervous system for your neuroscience for dopamine, is music. Oh my God, music, especially the upbeat music. So here I am brushing my teeth now. So I want you to make a habit, get, your little portable Bluetooth or whatever, you have your device, put on music when you're getting ready in the morning. It starts your day. That is dope, because what you're doing is you're dopamining yourself. You're creating that pharmacy, and now you're unwittingly bringing music, especially music which is attached to memories that are consistent with your outcomes of confidence. So start a playlist, what I want you to do is to, on Spotify or iTunes or whatever service that you have, start a confidence playlist that you're going to access and you're going to use regularly. So dopamine is D, okay? So here's what I want you to, and the last one, sunlight, of course, which I said. So we got meditation, crossing off your to-do list, exercise, sleep, listening to music, and sunlight. So I want you to ask yourself this question. What opens up for you when you just decide to put those in tomorrow or today even? What would happen over 30 days if you just put elements of those every day? Because it's not going to come to you. It's not going to come to you. It's not lightning or you're going to get hit. No. You must take action. It's not going to happen on its own. You can't without action. What would open up for you? Take a moment and ask yourself that. And then what opens up for your kids? And then what opens up for your business? And here's the other thing. It's a work in progress. It's a muscle. So when you stop working it out, the dopamine starts to go down. The next one is O for oxytocin. Okay? Oxytocin is that cuddle hormone. When you have an orgasm, those of you who had one or two in your life, you know what I'm talking about. You basically, it is the cuddle hormone. It is the connection hormone. Okay? The cuddle, it's the connection. Okay? We require oxytocin to have confidence. So what's the best way of accessing it and doing a hack? Well, minimum of 8 deep hugs a day. Really. And when you hug, pause and feel. And it's funny because when I go to hug my dad or my mom, and they're not huggers. They hug, but then they do this. My dad does this the tap, right? It's like, hey, how's it going? And it's just kind of like you can feel a lot of the reason why I love teaching this stuff is because, my dad's mother died when he was 14, and he basically went into kind of like an emotional shutdown from that. He didn't really feel his grief. So he's got a bit of a wall up. So that blocks, love from getting in and love from coming out. So he's got his ways of showing. I had to do a lot of inner work. A lot of my inner work has been because I haven't been perceiving love. But now that I understand his traumas and, his values and everything, I totally see love there where I wasn't seeing it before, because I wasn't really doing the work on it. I was expecting love to come a certain way. So what they say is you need your hugs lasting at least 5, 10, 15 seconds. Really get in there and feel it. Like now when I hug, my hugs are intentional, because when you hug, you're releasing oxytocin. And it's really great because random acts of kindness produce oxytocin. not just for you doing the random act of kindness, not just for you receiving the random act for kindness, but if you're watching a person perform a random act of kindness, even by watching, you get a hit of oxytocin. And it's this feel good neurohormonal, it's a hormone, it's a neurotransmitter. And it actually just, this feeling of well-being, that cuddle, it's how you feel after an orgasm. I don't have to
actually
really go
listening to
into
a podcast this morning. It was a Tony Robbins one, okay, not a weird one. But it literally was a woman talking about, for a woman, how important having orgasms is for their confidence. Like, we can talk about that on a different segment, but it's so incredibly important. So many women are closed off in their bodies, and it has a profound impact on how they feel about themselves. And
totally, yeah. And so 8 hugs a day minimum, and petting your dog. Whenever I pet Lucy, boom, I get a hit of oxytocin. And hugging your kids, like, just go and hug them. And it's just like, I want you to look at it as a required nutrient. You know, and when we get caught up in our heads, we're disconnected from our bodies. We don't feel, because it hurts to feel. We don't know how to attune, and we haven't done nervous system regulation practices. And in my trigger proof programs, this is what we go into. But to feel, and then to really just connect, and then just stay in the body. Like, wow, what an incredible thing.
So 8 long hugs and an orgasm a day. That's what you're prescribing?
Minimum. Exactly, ladies. Absolutely. Just, and then if anybody, challenges you on that, just tell them I sent you. well, Nima,
this is minimum, by the way, ladies. This is like benchmark minimum.
Totally, exactly. So that's O. So DO. The next one is serotonin. I'm going to check my notes on that. Serotonin, number 1. First thing I want you to understand, and I don't know whether you guys in Juice Plus have a product for a probiotic. Do you have a probiotic in Juice Plus?
There is a component
There's a component
in the capsules.
So in the capsules. Okay, so here's the deal with the probiotics. Serotonin, 90% of the serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that produces this sense of well-being and this sense of joy, a sense of pride, it actually gets released by your gut. And if you have gut issues, leaky gut, all of these issues that are with a destroyed inflammatory bowel conditions, the fauna, the intestinal bacterial growth has been wonky. And so you lose that ability to produce serotonin. So if you have SIBO or problems with gut bacteria, don't be surprised if you also feel depressed. How many of you know what I'm talking about here? You have the digestive thing going on, inflammation in the digestion, and also feel the sense of heaviness and down, like this down feeling. Just know that your gut bacteria produces serotonin. So you must take a good probiotic to replace that, or make sure you're having, foods that contain that, kombucha, kefir, all of that stuff. So making sure that your gut bacteria is healthy, number 1. And then, of course, sunlight is super duper important for that. And exercise, by the way, oxytocin for exercise as well. But exercise and exercise, gut health. And here's the other part: thinking and feeling, altering your perceptions so that you can think and feel the thoughts that you want to feel. So let's say you show up late for a meeting of mine. I have two things that happen. All of a sudden, my mind goes, oh, that Kira, she's late. She's so disrespectful. She thinks she's better than me. Boom, I'm not good enough. My thoughts will go there. Many of you, how many know what I'm talking about? That's the default mode. That's the ego. That's the wounded inner child. Boom, you go there. Versus catching it because you've done the shadow ego work. You've learned how to dance with your dark passenger. You've done all of that. You see that, and then all of a sudden you shift your perceptions and you turn it to empathy, first towards yourself, which is the kind of what we teach our peeps. And then you have empathy. Oh man, she must be going through a lot. She's gone through a separation right now. There's a lot going on in her mind. Wow. I hope she's okay. So what I just did there was I shifted my mindset from thinking, stinking thinking and beating myself up and judging, abandoning, blaming, and shaming both myself and you, to catching it and then shifting the perceptions and altering the perceptions. That will help boost serotonin. That's why people at our workshops, at the overview experience, because I go through my overview method, it teaches you a step-by-step protocol, kind of like what you and I went through on our last call together when I was in Barcelona, and you were so vulnerable, and you were like, hey, can I take you through the process? And you're like, sure. What I just did there was through a specific inquiry process, which I teach in the workshops, you literally are able to shift that perception and go from that was in the way to, oh, that's on the way, and I feel a sense of gratitude. What we did there, the reason why you felt differently was because simply by going into inquiry, and I showed you how what happened was on the way to your mission, you shifted your perceptions and you had gratitude, and boom, your serotonin levels went up naturally without altering, many people have the story, oh, it's a chemical imbalance. Please understand, no, it's not a chemical balance without, you go straight to the pills without first trying the exercise, without first replacing the gut bacteria, getting sunlight, connecting with people, hugs a day, dealing with your issues, changing your stories. Yeah, there's work involved, or I'm just going to take a pill and think that my problems are being solved. And if you do that way, I'm not saying you're an evil person. I'm just saying there's an impact. And the impact is your body. Sorry, I just keep getting these calls. Your body then all of a sudden says, oh, there's plenty of serotonin in my system because it's chemically done. I don't need to make any more. So now you're trapped taking these pills and there's no exit strategy and you're hooked on them for life, and you got to increase the dosage because of hedonic adaptation. That's not good for you. And you're not dealing with the traumas, and you're passing it down generation to generation, living with the lie that, oh, it runs in the family. Pay attention to that. Oh, it runs in the family. Yeah. So does not dealing with your effing issues and valuing yourself and investing in yourself and prioritizing yourself. That also runs in the family. But guess what? You can change that pattern if you just wake the F up. Sorry to be rude and trigger you on this. Okay. But your job is to break the cycle of inherited family trauma, not just for your kids, but also for your parents. Once I understood this, I was like, holy shit, I have a responsibility. I moved in with my parents. I healed everything with them. Things have never been better between us. And I'm not saying that they don't trigger me and we don't go through our ups and downs. Absolutely, we do. But I'm way more ease and grace and flow with it than I used to be, because I took on kind of self-acceptance, self-improvement, and building my own confidence, being my own hero to do it. And that's what's available to you. So what comes up for you when you take on dopamine, you take on oxytocin, be your own dopamine factory, be your own oxytocin factory, be your own serotonin factory. What else is missing in that? You also want, thinking and feeling your mission statement. Many people don't even have a mission statement. That's why when you jump in, we start working with people, that's your first thing. It's like, oh my God, I have to write it down. I feel like such a fraud. That's not me. Please understand, it's supposed to feel that way. Kind of like when you start your business and you're talking to people about the opportunity, it feels like you're used to wearing, a goth uniform all the time. And then all of a sudden you show up as a preppy. It feels like out of character.
Do you think as well, like what holds a lot of people back, because I've done a mission statements training, and the amount of people who feel challenged to even start, they're so inspired by the training, but they sit there and even just getting started. And it's almost like the fear of getting it right rather than just getting it started. Because my mission statement changes almost every day. I read it and I realize I've evolved, or that's not important to me anymore, or there's some new values that need to go in.
Update it.
Evolution. It's not a solid document that you have to get perfect on the first round.
Totally. Yeah. And it's true. You don't get it on the first round. Just to let you know, when I was introduced to the whole and Sarah says, I need mission statement training. That's like the first module of when we work. And that's basically what you're going to get when, you know, you do the accelerator, intimacy accelerator, is to create a mission statement for yourself, for sure. But to answer your question about it, it is daunting. When I first did it, I was, you know, in a seminar, and they're like, write your mission statement. I'm like, I was like deer in headlights. And guess how long it took me to finally get one on paper? 3 years. It took me 3 years of not doing a mission statement to finally put it on paper. And I did it in 2006. And it's now 2019, and I've revised it around 30 times. And I have it each time. And I revised it May the 5th of this year was the last time I revised it. And I listened to myself saying it every morning. Well, about 80% of the mornings, because I travel and and some of it feels like just beyond reach. So you want to have it, a lot of it that you know to be true, and some of it that's just beyond reach. And so we go into that in our trainings as well, to help you get it right so that you feel congruent with it, even if it doesn't feel congruent right at the beginning. So that's, you know, that's really getting that mission statement. And the last one that I wanted to share is endorphins. And this is, simply put, endorphins is exercise and doing scary shit. Okay. And there are two things. The last thing, by the way, if you haven't paid attention, you haven't come and seen our show, my show Trigger Proof. It's every Thursday early morning. I guess it's 5 or 6 a.m. for you guys. So it's super early when it's live, but definitely to show up and watch the replay on my Facebook page. What I shared on the last one is about self-love and confidence. You definitely want to watch that one. Go and watch that training. The last one on my Facebook page on Self-Love 101. I share something that I learned that was very powerful. Telling the truth to other human beings has a redeeming and confidence-producing quality to it, because we withhold the truth of our feelings quite often. But telling the truth from an inauthenticity that you've been withholding has a profoundly redeeming quality, number one.
So you would say, so really about vulnerability?
Exactly. Like, for example, your and I last call, or my first call with you on this, where I shared, it was back in April, and it was just as I kind of like, I'm doing more and more of the work, and I'm doing the shadow work. And part of that was to share vulnerably what was so for me and why I'm teaching this stuff. And it was to share vulnerably a very humbling, humiliating story about myself, but it was the truth. And after I shared it, I noticed my level of confidence as I share it continues to expand, because you're never going to get there as far as confidence goes. It's a practice. Self-love and confidence is a practice that I must turn to on a daily basis. It's a daily spiritual practice. And the more connected I am with myself, the more confident I am. Go ahead, hon. Yeah.
One of the things you said, exercise and doing things that scare you. One of the things that is always on my vision board in my mission statement is doing things that are outside my comfort zone and that will give me some kind of adrenaline rush, or they're fun. Because I think one of my greatest I guess, inspirations is seeing how as we age, we really can become so stuck in our frameworks and so inflexible. And I believe that we age because we allow, we stop doing the things that we do when we're a kid and when we're fearless, and we stop playing, and, we stop embracing change, which was a big one for me when I became a mother.
You become more rigid.
So rigid.
And the more rigid, yes. And here's the thing, and I'm a chiropractor, so here's what happens. I can see you. This is why I'm so interested in this stuff. If you come and see me and you're in your 50s, I put my hands on your spine.
Yeah.
And I can tell that you have a rigid mind if you have a rigid body.
This is
I
why I
really
talk
want
on
you to
this
get that.
call about opening up for women, especially, that every day I stretch and open my heart space, and energetically I feel so much more connected to the environment and the people around me by doing that. So much more open.
Totally.
To surrender and vulnerability and all of those things. It's so interconnected. You know, I do handstands and all of these things. Like, I'm nearly 40. You know, most 40-year-olds wouldn't be doing that, but that's why I feel so youthful, because I'm always stretching myself.
Exactly,
So
both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
So a rigid mind will create a rigid body. Absolutely. So endorphins, to scare the crap out of yourself. Now watch this. So telling the truth has a redeeming quality. And number two, here's what we know to be true: that you must have controlled, incremental expansion of doing that which, let me say it a different way. Controlled, incremental exposure to that which scares the shit out of you. So let me give you an example. I'm afraid to talk in public. Okay, great. So can you do a one-on-one? So let's say a business opportunity with Juice Plus. But Kira, I'm signed up and I'm scared shitless of talking to people. Well, can you now have a conversation with one of your friends about the opportunity? Great, good. Can you now get two friends? Was that scary? Oh, how was it? Ooh, I shat myself. I couldn't sleep the night before. Okay, good. All right. So tomorrow, can you have that conversation with two? Oh no, that's going to be scary. And so what happens is you've now incrementally exposed yourself to that little bit more. So for me, here's the thing: you're never going to have like an end to that limit. So Kira, you've spoken on a stage in front of 1,000 people, 5,000 people before?
I think 8,000's been the most.
Okay, 8,000. Do you remember how you were shitting yourself before you went up?
Actually, I just got back from India, so I was in my happiest, most non-nervous place ever. But
okay.
Because I did the work.
Okay, because you were attuning and you were getting it into yourself and you were meditating, kind of doing that. But what happens is every audience that I speak to calls on me to expose myself to that much greater of a challenge. And what I deliberately do, I started by doing my show Trigger Proof. I did it partially to share, content that I believe is going to change the world. That's number one thing. It was altruistically for other people, but it was narcissistically, so that number one, I could not only expose myself to expose more people to my work and to expand my message, but also to scare the shit out of myself, because every single week I challenge myself to get that much more vulnerable. I do my shows and they're not scripted. There's a format that I have, but I deliberately go in completely unprepared. And by unprepared, I mean, like in my talk today, as you can see, I had notes of what I prepared, but I don't script. That's my thing. Whenever you're going to hear me speak, you're never going to hear me speak scripted. It's all coming through me, stream of consciousness, because that scares me just a little bit. Before we go live and before I'm being interviewed, I don't know what's happening. And I deliberately tell them, don't tell me, because I want it to come through me, because it calls on me to just be that much more present. So why is it that scaring yourself a little bit calls on you to be present? Well, if you're surfing, your guys are in Australia, when you're surfing, you don't know the outcome. You're literally letting the wave go and you're going with the flow of the wave. That's how to do life. Just a little bit nervous, just a little bit scary, just a little bit, I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm willing to ride it. And that has a certain confidence producing activity. But here's the key component to all of this that I want you to know. None of these things any of those things are going to happen without you overriding the bridge of fear to take an action step. In other words, you must cross the bridge of fear to do it. You must not fear the sensations of fear. You must befriend fear and pain in order to do it. That's it. And that's what I wanted you to get out of that. And so incremental progress towards the exposure of something scary, financially scary. You got to commit. You got to do an action step and taking those action steps. And the best way to do it all is through a community of people who are all doing it together. And just don't be in isolation, getting accountability to do it. And that's it.
That's one of the best things about this community, is there's someone to hold your hand whilst you're fearful of getting outside your comfort zone. You're not
Totally.
doing it on your own.
Totally.
There's a couple of really great questions here. So when we do the work on ourselves, I see how that impacts and benefits our children. How does it help heal our parents and our relationship with them?
That's a great question. So what happens is, here I am at my, in a really dark place last year. And then I decide to go in and start doing the work and starting to own what I project in my parents and all of the victim state that I have in my parents. When you're doing the work, it involves you cleaning your mental house in order. It means going back to all of your projections, your transferences, all of the victim stories that you have, and clear the resentment and regrets. And so many of that will be ex-lovers, ex-husband, ex-wife, your parents, a former boss, the resentments that you're holding on to. And so by going back and loving yourself and seeing the value of it and turning the stories and changing the stories around, you actually help see the innocence of your past generations, of your parents. And that helps to heal them. Even if it's energetic and they've passed on, you still have that impact by doing that, because you literally break the intergenerational cycle through your epigenetics. But what happens if they're still alive, that heals that relationship with them. And so many of our clients, like Vivian, for example, after she was on one of these calls, she reached out and did a private consult with me and said, Nima, everything that you said, really resonates. I need to do this work. I can see I'm stuck. I don't have power. I don't have confidence in sharing what I do. I've been a single for the last 10 years after my divorce. I don't even want to see people. And now it's spilling over to my kids. I want to, really make something happen. And so we did some work on her. And after her first call, she changed her story about her mother, and she went and had a conversation with her mother, and her mother felt seen and heard and empathized with. And it literally, her mother started opening up and sharing what she went through. And it was like this catharsis of healing that's simple. And then she came back to the group and said, I can't believe it. Like, my life is totally different now. I haven't spoken to my mother in 4 years. We just had a conversation. She shared with me her side, and I never took a moment to really see that what she was going through when she was, me and her were having a rough time. And now I see it, and I gave her an opportunity to feel seen and heard. And now we have a connection. And then I asked her, I said, what do you think that did for your mother's nervous system, for you to actually be seen and to see and hear her? And this reminds me of you as well, Kira, when we were working together last year, and I was like, Kira, I want you to call your mother. And there was a great deal of resistance. Maybe I don't want to talk to your mother. Maybe I don't want to talk to my mom. I've been working so hard to be not that. And then all of a sudden, you went and reconnected with her. What do you think that did for your mother to be able to have an opportunity to be there for her daughter when there wasn't always the best of relationships, just like any other mother-daughter connection? What do you think that did for her by you taking on the work? Have you noticed that for yourself, Kira, a shift for her?
Definitely.
So by you taking on the work, it helps future generations, but also you can have an opportunity to heal the relationship of a past. Now, the most memorable example of this for me, here I am, I'm traveling around the world, and there was an opportunity for me to do my one-on-one sessions in London. I was in London, and I was like, hey, instead of doing it on Skype, do you want to do it in person? She said, sure. So we met close to Paddington Station in Hyde Park, and we're sitting on a park bench, and we went back I regressed her to an earlier scene using my overview method, and she was really resistant to her father. Her father was a real meanie. And she literally, after about 45 minutes, turned that story and had absolute feeling of love and gratitude for her father. And guess what? Her father was on his deathbed. He was in hospice, and he literally had 48 hours to go. And she then finishes the session with me and goes straight to the hospice and was able to connect with him and have this, whoa, and have this moment of absolute love. And there was this disconnect her whole life with her father. There was no connection. And in that moment, it was as though he was waiting for her to finally see him. She finally saw her father from a different perspective and loved him for all the trauma, the abuse, all of that stuff that she experienced. And there was this wall between them. It was gone. He felt it. And it was as though he was waiting to feel that. He was holding on. It was incomplete. As soon as that happened, that night he passed on. She text messages me. She goes, I got goosebumps right now. She said, what an amazing gift. What a gift that I was able to love my father. And I now see why he was holding on so long. He was waiting for me to finally love him and see him. And it was like, holy
Someone's
shit.
just said here, how do we clear resentments with people who have, I'm assuming she means passed on, but it's the same process. They don't have to be living, you don't
have
to be a response from them for you to be able to clear it.
No. And many of my clients, after a call or a session, I will get them to go visit the gravesite.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, because someone's put here that their parent doesn't take responsibility or shuts them down. That's not what the work is about. The work is usually perspective.
Everybody says that. Everybody, they're responding. I got to tell you this, and I don't, if this isn't personal, I've heard that so many times. And then my client, we start doing the work together, and all of a sudden they shift their perception. And then I'm like, now go and share that with your parents. No, but my mom doesn't listen and is so-and-so. I'm like, just go. You shifted that energy. The energy and the perceptions are like charges. By neutralizing those charges, you're having a non-local effect on the other person. And you're so full of love for yourself that you're not doing it for their approval anymore. And now they can feel that. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden the relationship shifts. So I know you got a story about, oh, they don't take responsibility. I get that. So don't worry. That just shows that you're not complete yet.
The last one maybe that you could finish on, because this one comes up on every single call, what if you know someone who would benefit but they're not open to hearing this?
That's for you. Yeah, that's you doing the work on yourself that you don't yet see. Here's the thing. Eilina, who's now a coach in my program, had been trying for years to get her son to work with me. And he was so resistant. He was that snotty teenager, forget about it. And she's like, oh, I want him to come. I want him to come see you. And I'm like, no, Eilina, this is not about him. This is about you wanting to fix and rescue. You focus on doing the work on you. He is a reflection of you, your unwillingness to commit to you. His unwillingness to commit to fixing him, to sorting his shit out, is a reflection of you not willing to do that. And your resistance to them is evidence that you're not in the work because you're trying to change other people. When you're truly centered, you don't want to try to fix and change other people. Even though you think, oh, but he's an asshole. He's this resentful. He's complaining. This is you to do the work. So she just took it on. And finally, after a massive breakdown that he had, he finally came into the work. And he started coming to the workshops. He came to the overview experience, had a profound epiphany, now knows exactly what he wants to do. He thought he was going to get kicked out of school, finishes high school. He's now training to become a paramedic, and he loves surfing. He travels around the world and surfs, and he's a paramedic so that he can pay for his surfing addiction. We got reconnected to that, and all happened when she let go of trying to fix other people.
And that comes back to loving without expectation. And so you do the work on you, and there's many people in my life I would love to impact, but it's not for me to tell them that they need to or they should or that I have the answers. I'm just going to do my best job of being my most light, spreading as much light as I can in the world, and that will inspire some, and some it won't. And that's not for me to judge or have an expectation on.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's what I want you to do. Can you put up that link, please? Mm-hmm. For those of you, I have to go soon. For those of you who are wanting to learn, especially if you have other people around you who aren't doing the work and you're frustrated, this is about you becoming trigger proof. They are opening up the opportunity for you to actually do the work on yourself. So I'm going to be doing a webinar. I'm going to be hosting a Zoom call, a Zoom training that's 90 minutes long on this very topic. And so, by the way, just to let you know, this will be free for those of you. It's on Saturday. Can you put the link up? You just got to register your name. Yeah, you register and make sure you're live on the call. It'll be a Zoom call like this. I'll be doing Q&A because I don't have the time right now, but this will be a real workshop. I'm going to get you guys actually to work. And for those of you who are really keen, who are just kind of like, some of you are like on the fence. Others are like, shit, I got to do this. It's time for me to step up. This is where myself, and I think Kira, you're going to be there as well. In Sydney, October the 18th to 20th, we have the Overview Experience live training. And there's only 10 spots left. I'm only maxing it out to 20 people because you're going to get individualized coaching. There's going to be breath work. It's body-based work to help clear the trauma from your body. If you've had abuse, if you had separation anxiety, all of that stuff, or you've had trauma, we get into the body. I'm going to be doing chiropractic work, and we get into the Overview Experience where I teach you the tools in transforming those altered states of resentment into power, into alignment. And Kira's going to be there. We're going to have high-level conversations. You get to be part of the community, and it's going to be in Sydney, and it's from the 18th to the 20th, and we can only take 10. And so if you're ready to do that, you want to get a spot, go ahead and register. I believe it's drnima.com/intimacy-upgrade. So I'm traveling around the world. I'll be in Barcelona in November, in Dubai in December, and Vancouver in September. But in October, I'm going to be in Australia. So it's an opportunity for me to meet you in person and give you a big hug. And it's a big oxytocin fest. And so it's hugely transformative, and it's small. It's not like 500 people. It's like 20 of us in a room. And you leave there fully resourced, fully connected, knowing what your mission is, and with tools that you'll be able to take whatever's in the way and you turn it to be on the way. But definitely show up for the weekend workshop. This weekend coming up and put your name in that link so that you can show up for the Zoom call, and make sure you're there with a pen and paper with questions ready, because I want to make sure that you get served there and you have those tools. It's about emotional regulation to upgrade your intimacy, how to be trigger proof. And it's a trigger proof training.
Participate in your own rescue, guys. And, if you show up, then Nima's going to be there to help facilitate you going through that process. So,
and if you're not already following me on Instagram at Dr. Nima, you can send me a DM if you have any questions, or on Facebook where the trigger proof episodes are. They're hosted on Facebook. And I would just love it if you would come and ask questions during it, because we have case studies and I go through the process every time, and it's really interesting. And the last one was probably one of my most vulnerable, and it was on self-love. So there's a ton of content, and also on my YouTube channel, subscribe to that too, so that you're getting the edited versions of the show. You can watch the Trigger Proof show. Episode 1 to 11 is up already. So it's just, this is a very important message, because I believe in co-regulation and self-regulation as being the thing that's going to change the world. Because we try to solve the education crisis, the racial crisis, the environmental. It's not going to happen unless we first learn how to regulate ourselves and co-regulate. And so I'm on
responsibility for that, for how we react every day to the things in life. Yeah, it's just
that's where it all begins.
Yeah, it really does.
It's made a huge difference, and you're an inspiration to me of what's possible, and all of the other peeps, like you've completely, like, wow, I can't wait to see you in October, hon. And how cool would it be for you guys to be in the same room and watch Kira and just be part of the whole process? And you're going to learn the keys to the kingdom in that. It's my favorite conversation over a weekend. So I'd love to come to those who are really committed. Just get registered right away, because we only have 10 spots remaining, and then it closes off to the public.
Amazing. Thank you as always for your time, and you're just serving so many people, and I just get flooded with messages from people who are loving your calls, so we really appreciate it.
I'd love to be back.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you again. Thank you, everyone. Remember to subscribe. There are the links in the description, as well as the link for the Zoom over the weekend with Nima is in the comments below. Have a good afternoon, everyone. See you next time.